And we are live. What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to VKH Live. Right off the bat, I just want to give a preface. If you hear any of us start roboting out or any lag, I apologize in advance. I've been moving this weekend, so I'm in a new location that doesn't have internet yet. Streaming on a hotspot from a phone that has bad cell service in this area. So we'll see how this goes. This may have been a mistake, but definitely wanted to cover this topic ASAP, and also because of I had to cancel the live last night because of the move. So yes, I am your host, Jeff DeWitt. And with me are two very special guests. First of all, returning to the show is Rhubarb from Fake Star. How are you doing, Rhubarb?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm dying. I've been unpacking all weekend and just running around and
it must be
not having internet. Oh yeah. I'm so pale that I got sunburned just from being out in the parking lot and walking around and stuff. But, yeah. And also with us is Shane, who is our fellow reviewer from VKH Press, and he has been on VKH Breakdown, our podcast, in the past. So how are you doing, Shane?
Yes, sir. I'm doing pretty great. Very tired also, and myself awake as usual.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just a different version of the same old events. Everybody at VKH and everyone VKH knows is dying and exhausted and super overworked. So,
yeah.
But yeah, basically. So tonight's topic, we wanted to cover A9. Formerly Alice 9. They've been on quite the musical adventure since they left PSC a few years back and became an indie band. They recently put out an album called Planet 9 that I finally got around to listening to, and it threw me so hard for a loop that I reached out to anybody else that I listened to it and definitely wanted to talk about it because it's very interesting.
It is way out of left field.
Yeah, so I guess maybe some context, because I guess I'm imagining there's people outside of the A9 fans that may be here in the chat. Maybe some people haven't been following A9 since they became A9. So I guess. Let's see. I don't even know how many years ago it was. Like a few years back, Alice 9 put out their last, what would become their last album as a major band, which was Supernova, and they were at a point where they had taken their light rock sound, their soft rock sound, and just done it and improved it and got to the point where they wanted to start experimenting with pop music. And so it was like a lot of experimentation with like nightclub vibes and, pop beats and things like that. It was a very major band kind of thing to do. And I had reviewed that. And at that point I had actually compared them to I had called them the Maroon 5 of v-kei. But for context, that wasn't really a huge insult back then. So just because like they were that v-kei band that always did like soft rock and light rock and pop rock really, really well, and that was Maroon 5, back in the day. And then now they've started experimenting with electronic music, and that was Maroon 5. And Maroon 5 crashed and burned with it in my book, but like just compared to their old stuff. But Alice 9, not so much. I enjoyed it, so it wasn't like a disaster by comparison. So that's where the comparison diverges. But yeah, then after that they left PSC and rebranded as A9 as an indie band, and then they went wild with their experimentation, at least compared to before. You know, they got heavier, they did some harder rock, they brought in some influences from some like electronic-core influences, I guess, from Direwolf, which was Show, and do you guys remember which guitarist was in Direwolf from A9?
Tora.
And yeah, Tora, thank you. It was a side project from them. And so then they put out their first album, which was Ideal. So what did you guys think of Ideal? Just out of curiosity.
Do I think about it? It definitely wasn't like my favorite thing that they've done, even that they came back as A9. I didn't think that it was all that. I think Memento was really the only track on the album that I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. What about you, Bob? Anything?
Didn't listen to it because so like I'm really, really like, I know a lot of the older Alice 9 stuff. I used to be a huge fan back in my fan days. I won't go into detail about that part, but I haven't listened to the last couple albums. And the reason why I'm on the chat today is because you told me this album was really good, and I was like, all right, let's take a peep. Because I haven't been liking their musical direction the last few years, so I kind of fell out of following them. But I did, what was it, Memento? I heard Memento, I think, on YouTube a few times. I thought it was a good track, but it wasn't enough to sucker me back into the band again.
That's
yeah. That's I think I'm echoing out of your speakers for Bob, unless you don't have speakers in.
Hold on. I'm going to get some headphones.
Oh, okay. Sure.
But yeah, keep talking.
Yeah. Also, Shane, just FYI, chat says you're coming out a little quiet. If there's anything you can do about that. Otherwise, no worries.
Okay. I'm closer to the microphone now.
Okay. That's about all you can do, I think. So
yeah.
So I actually really enjoyed the album, but I was only like a casual Alice 9 fan, I guess, like just because of my personal preference for crazy zany music that is like hyper experimental, even to a fault, as opposed to like the lighter music. But I could definitely see like how controversial it would be, because just by comparison, it was like they might as well have, like, they did the equivalent of their entire careers and they did an equivalent of that in a year. Like, it sounded like a very different band. But did you get to, so what did you think of the so like that's the context, right? So people are, you know, are already kind of all over the place about A9, I think, in general, just talking to other people at VKH as well. And we've talked about it on the podcast. So what caught me off guard about this new album, Planet 9, is that it's a little, it's not really, it's not heavy. You know, it really dropped a lot of the particulars of the last album, which kind of felt like a remix of Alice 9's like past music, plus, you know, some experimentation with hard rock and like electronic core a little bit. So, but this one, like, it almost felt like Planet 9 almost feels like an indie version, an indie approach to what they did with Supernova back on PSC, because it's really focusing on pop music pretty hard. In some ways it's not as poppy, but in some ways it's way more poppy. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. It's I don't know, I feel like it's definitely more electronic than Ideal was, and I'm not sure how to even describe how I feel about Ideal, because it just wasn't that great to me. But this one really did it for me because of all the electronic influences. Like, I'm obsessed with Unreal. Like, I think that it's one of the best songs that they've done since they've come back. Songs that they've done when you really love it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Unreal kind of sounds like the culmination of that experimentation that they had done with Supernova, because they had that song. They had that song "Kid" in the middle of that, and that was like a really at the time it was a pretty forward thinking like EDM track, like EDM rock experimental track. Like it was actually like, okay, I could see them being a band in a nightclub playing this song if they got the sounds right, the sound levels right and shit. But so then like to hear Unreal, which I like just did such a great job with the arrangement, I guess, of the electronic music and the pop elements compared to the rock elements, the guitars. It just felt so clean and flat, you know?
Yeah, I think they definitely did a really great job. You know, if this is the sound, I think they hit the nail on the head, with it being equal parts electronic and rock, and you know, sounding not like it was made on GarageBand also was really cool.
That's a good way of describing the last album, is that like I liked what they were doing, but there were times where it felt like overproduced and stuff. Like, you know.
Yes, I agree.
Do you think, Rubab, do you think they fixed that a little bit on this one? Or would you say you're still skeptical as to like the...
No, I think they're back on track, because like what I'm curious about is who mixed this album and who like arranged everything, because it's not the same person that it's been, at least. They definitely spend a lot of production money on making this album way more professional sounding than the last ones have been. I don't know if anyone's got that jacket on you. Let me peep that credits, because I'm really curious who did it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like that. And it was a really authentically pop, you know. It wasn't pop rock. It was the way some of these are written. First of all, we can just talk about it because I think we're all thinking about it, or Shane and I are at least. You've got Castle of the Nine, which is a straight up pop song.
It is.
There are no guitars.
The greatest song of the last 1,000 years.
And it has all 5 members singing or rapping. And it is like straight, like it's a banger. Like it's got like really solid, like it's got pretty solid, you know, nightclub EDM flavored elements, like some bouncing synths and, you know, build ups and bass drops. You know,
that was the one with the keyboard effects, right?
That was what?
That was the one with the keyboard effects, right? Like the harp is short or whatever. Like, I don't remember.
It's the one with rapping in it.
I'm confused. I only gave this album a quick listen, but there was one track that definitely had keyboard synths in it, and I was like, "What are you guys, Matenro Opera now? Like, what's going on?"
Oh, I know what you're talking about. That was towards the end. Like it sounded like a. No, I think you would know what I'm talking about. Rubab, look up Castle of the Nine if you can in your browser, and just give me a quick live reaction if you haven't heard it. Because it'll be worth capturing that.
No, I heard Castle of the Nine too, and I remember all of the the vocals. I was like, who's singing on this?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think
really all of them, Jeff.
I think so. I was I'm kind of going off of like how I've seen like past behavior I've seen. Like they had that song Undead Party from the last album, and they started playing it live. And then halfway through, they just all got off their instruments, played electronic and rock music in a background track. And then they all just kind of started dancing and doing like all kinds of different stuff, like acting like pop stars. And then there was
so great.
That's like Hiroto's like Johnny's background coming in here. That's what that is.
Oh, like they really want to, they are really kind of, you know, the last band I remember doing it is Cameleo, and they're doing like just like a really like DIY version of like, you know, what Cameleo is trying to do. And you can tell they really enjoy it. And it's very entertaining to me, like to watch. So I think the fans are getting a kick out of it. But there was also, I want to say on Pendulum, there was a remixed or a remade version of Undead Party where they were all singing. And it wasn't good because the other members could not sing at the time. One of them could growl, so he was growling. And the other ones were very off key. One of them tried to rap and couldn't quite rap the way Sho can kind of rap, but they seem to have fixed all that because this sounds different, like the Castle of the Nine, and then the rapping in Unreal, and any other vocals from the other members they might have slipped in there. But
that's why I'm saying like they must have spent a lot of money on a really good engineer who can fix all of that. Or they got voice lessons, but I doubt it. I really think it's good engineering.
Oh, you think they were straight up auto-tuned to the correct?
I mean, okay, so everyone is auto-tuned. Like that's like a little trade secret, is that everyone's pitch is kind of like fixed a lot. So, you know, that's very likely in this case too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's not any you don't think there's any bands that don't do that?
I mean, of course, like, the ones with the good vocalists, and you can definitely tell when you see bands live and you're like, oh, wow, that sucks. It's like, oh, then okay, they must be auto-tuned to shit when they do their, you know, recording.
Yeah, like I feel like
everyone,
I don't know, maybe a band like,
bit, but like some of them, like, I mean, just for instance, Fall Out Boy, Patrick does not sound anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's true. But there's you know, I feel like Lip Lick, for example, or Lip Lich, really need to get a confirmation on which way you say their name from someone.
I'm on it.
Oh, thank you. But you know, like their vocalist is his voice seems very raw, and like there are parts that, like, if you know they had access to, they're a band still, so you know, they just may not even be able to afford, you know, better production quality. But you know, there's a few bands like that where I can imagine that the vocalist is just, his voice is just like so kind of raw, and there's enough imperfections, but like it sounds good with the imperfections, that I could see it being like, you know, they recorded it 10 times and they found one that's like, that's the good take. But
all right,
yeah, I could definitely see like a lot of it being auto-tuned today.
You ready for this, Jeff?
Yes.
It's pronounced Riflici.
Oh
no, I need the English accent version.
Liflich, I guess, is the best way to pronounce it.
Liflich. Okay, so there's a pH, a pH effect in there.
The
okay, cool.
pH and a CH sound, and then I guess it's German or something. So I don't know. It's the Japanese pronunciation in katakana. I will paste it into the chat.
Yeah.
And you guys can argue about how to pronounce it your way.
Also, don't feel attacked, but Bryn Jones in the chat says early Aki from Arlequin sounded awful as well.
But the thing is he got better, right? Like,
yeah,
got some voice lessons.
He's way better now.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people rooting for Arlequin due to like how just kind of forward thinking they kind of seemed at the time, even as a brand new band. So
Me too.
There's a lot of forgiveness on stuff like that, I think. Compared to, A9's in a tricky position where it's like, they're in like year 2.5 of changing from being the band that everyone just expects to put out the great light rock music to being a very experimental indie band, which is interesting, but there's also a huge surplus of those right now. So I see them like threading, like walking the line. So it's interesting. Like, for example, like one thing I think that's really interesting about this band, I noticed it last album. I noticed it just as much, if not more, in this album, is that they're non-single tracks, they're non-PV tracks, basically any tracks on the album that are like transition tracks or, just kind of to help with the pacing. They a lot of times they revert back to their light rock sound for those tracks. Whereas like the promotional tracks are all like kind of like the more experimental ones. But what's interesting is that like the promotional tracks, they may sound a little bit like old school Align, but there's always like an A9 twist on it, like Pendulum sounds like, Senko from back in the day, but then there's like this giant, there's all these like giant like hard rock and crazy twists in it, and then like Reborn sounds like a happy like upbeat A9 song, and then there's like a punk bridge or something like but these like in between tracks like Sonata was I guess the biggest one that really stuck out, but there were multiple ones on Ideal. They are so good compared to like they just like caught me off guard because they were so good, and they were like the core A9 formula of like that light rock song through and through. And to me, they just felt like fantastic songs that were just like really, had a different kind of production style. So I don't know if you guys noticed that or not, but it's just interesting to see them using like the thing they used to be known the most for as, like the, like taking the spotlight off of it, but then low key still being like really good at it.
Well, I mean, they had years and years of practice of doing that sound anyway, so it's still going to be pretty good.
Yeah. I would argue that this is the culmination of everything they've been trying up until this point with their, side projects and everything. And starting out as a very like, produced like PS company project, and then becoming, leaving and being able to do their own thing, and finally coming to the culmination of what they've been working for. I would say that's what this album probably is the sound that they've been searching for the last few years.
Now,
okay, so you think moving forward,
cover art.
Yeah, I'm looking at that in iTunes. He said now they need to get someone to do better cover art.
Well, you gotta sell it with the face, right? So they tried. Maybe that's like where they lacked on this album.
They are very indie with their budget, there was that Adam
put the money into the music rather than the other aspects of their aesthetic.
Take it. I don't think like the actual. I like the album art where it's not their faces, but then when you put their faces on it, I'm like, this is a little less interesting to me. I don't know. It has this like old school lunacy vibe to me for some reason. The weird like abstract artwork.
Yeah, their abstract artwork is pretty cool. I thought Ideal's album art was like really dope.
Yeah, that was cool, but the Planet 9 one is not great.
Yeah,
I like it, and you can fight me.
Shadow X Sora says in the chat they're walking the A line.
Oh, man.
Oh God.
Oh yes.
Oh my God.
Love it. Yes.
Amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate.
Where's my bleach? Killing me. You're
so
killing
good.
me, dude.
So good. Well, so like I I don't know if a lot of you guys are familiar with Alice 9 and stuff, but I'm sorry, I can't break out of old habits calling them Alice 9. They from like way back when they first started, interviews from like 10 years ago and stuff I remember reading, they said their inspiration was always like this space and stuff like that. So I like that they've kept that theme going for a lot of their music. And this album art especially like reflects that as well. It reminds me of like the rings of Saturn or something weird like that. So that's always been a really strong influence for them since the very beginning, was space, astronomy, planets, stars, all that kind of stuff. I think it's really cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I've noticed that. That was a big reason why I liked them so much. Like way back in the days, because it always felt like really like, yes, pop rock, but also like it. So
I think Gemini also had a very strong influence as well from astronomical things as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, well, yeah, like the constellation and stuff. Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't I mean, I feel like I subconsciously knew that, but I did not consciously know that, you know. that's
they talked about it. I think it was Saga especially used to talk about it a lot when they would ask like in interviews, what's your inspiration for this and that. I don't remember when that interview was. If I'm thinking, it must have been like the second or third album around that time. Like that's when they started talking more about that stuff. Oh, I think I'm slipping. I think I'm showing a little bit too much of my history.
Yeah, and that kind of you know, the fact that they're bringing the space references like really hard, you know, on this album compared to Ideal, you know.
And the
you got Planet 9, you know.
Yeah, and you get all the influence. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, it really I think that really backs up your thoughts about, in terms of this is the final direction, or like the new direction that they're going to run with, you know. So
I would argue it's always been their direction, but like kind of like didn't quite hit that mark, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they changed themes or anything, right?
No.
It's more like I feel like they're trying to, you know what it is? I feel like they're trying to modernize their approach to this light rock music. Like, I feel like they're actually trying to take steps, not to be like a 2005 band with like that same style of production where it's like, oh, you know, we play guitar riffs and then the electronic music's layered over in the background. So it's like, we're kind of like a pop rock band, but we're never going to actually appeal to pop music listeners. And we're always going to like irritate like certain rock you know, music fans that are like a little picky about having pop music in there. So we're going to hit that niche like thing, you know, in between, but like, that's where we're going to stay at. Whereas like this literally feels like they pop produced this song. Like a pop producer, you know, the guitars don't sit the same way in the tracks, like how they, you know, would on, you know, other bands that have, you know, played with this, rock and electronic music formula. A lot of these songs you could have, and they might have, and I didn't notice it, or I'm forgetting it. A lot of these songs, it's to the point where if you wanted to swap out the drum music for like a bass beat, I might not have even noticed.
Man,
I'm not sure if they actually did
that. Nobody has a job anymore except for Saga, because he's the one that produces everything.
Oh no, I'm just saying in terms of
no, I just think it's interesting though, because like, you know, the focus isn't on the like two guitars anymore, or, you know, or anything. Like most bands with two guitars will have a heavy focus on at least one of them, but it sounds like they're definitely putting more focus on their actual songwriting and the actual production, rather than, hey, look at me, I'm cute.
Yeah, but and what's interesting about that with these guys specifically, and I really haven't seen this before, is that it's like, it's not like all of the band members aren't especially the guitarists, aren't incredibly talented. So you'll just see it flare up every now and then in the album that like, you know, there'll just be a blazing guitar solo somewhere, but it'll be like it'll be like mixed in really nicely with like a well-produced pop rock track, and it's just like out of nowhere you just hear like a guitar solo, and then it goes back into the you know, like the style of it. So it's almost like they're structuring themselves to where they're just going to have a wealth of like, you know, talents and you know, I guess variety, musical variety to pull from. I don't know. I just feel like the structure in the arrangement of these songs is very smart, I suppose.
Yeah.
This is something I feel like bands have been trying to figure out for a while, and not just in Japan, like around the world. Like they're trying to figure out how to update to 2018 and start competing properly with other genres again.
Game changer.
Yeah, I would say there hasn't been a ton of progress except for like notable exceptions. You know, I feel like I feel like Nothing More over in the UK has got something figured out for bands that have like a rougher, rawer sound. But if you're like a lighter band that's more of just like regular rock as opposed to hard rock, it's kind of difficult to figure out how to modernize your arrangement and your production style in a way that catches the mainstream again, when like your competition is like these sludgy, smooth, like ear candy trap music, for example. You know, so that's what you're competing with. Like that's who is filling the void for, you know, rock stars in the States, at least right now. And it's to the point where there's like, you know, rock YouTubers and stuff, like the 10-second songs YouTube channel, is it 10 second? Yeah. The 10-second songs YouTube channel has got like a few million subscribers. He did a good video the other day about what a 2018 rock star looks like. And he's basically like, yeah, it's pretty much not a rock artist. But here's how it could be like that, you know? So, and so he's got his ideas and everybody's got their ideas. So A9's got their own ideas. It's pretty cool.
And they're pretty good ideas.
I mean, would you say what? Go ahead. No, you go.
Oh, okay. Did you guys feel like the tracks were there was so much variety that the album was a little bit disjointed at times?
Based on what I heard, there was one track where I was like, what is this? And I think I have to get a closer listen to figure out what it was. I don't remember the name of the track though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just felt like because of the singles that they had all this different experimentation, they really just had to, I think they did the best they could, to be honest, but like they just really had to reach to kind of make the album flow together correctly. It's just right out the beginning, or right off the bat, you have like their intro track, and it's like some pretty intense dubstep, kind of like that Teddy Lloyd style of like aggressiveness in terms of how quickly they switch between different electronic sounds, like one right after the other, and they're all very like high energy. And then it switches to Fix You, which was which we've talked about on our podcast, VKH Breakdown, like when it came out at the beginning of the year. It cracked some of us up on there because it's a very Winona said that was like the sign for her that they were in full-blown identity crisis when they literally made the music video about them switching like visual identities throughout different decades. But you know, it's a really good song. It's like a pop, it's a very pop rock song. But it was just such a big switch. And then, you know, they kind of, I don't know how you would switch from like Unreal, which is kind of a rock song, but kind of almost feels like a new metal song at some points, you know? And then Castle of the Nine comes out right after that, which is a full on electronic song. So I would like to see a follow-up for sure that keeps this style and then solidifies just like how it's laid out as an album, maybe like leave out any singles that come out between this one and the next album, and just kind of do what they did with Ideal, because that's one thing I would make the case for about what made Ideal good to some people. One of the better parts of it is that there was just Memento that they had put out as a single ahead of time for the album, and as a result, like the whole album flowed really well. Even though maybe like some of the tracks maybe got less exposure to the public as a result. But it just flew by so well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm curious if this means like, I don't know. Can you really classify them as visual kei based on the music style they're doing? It's pretty different and a lot more developed than a lot of other bands are doing. I mean, given of course they have a lot more years of experience under their belt compared to a lot of the younger bands, but I don't know. It kind of makes me wonder, like, what are they going to do next? If they started doing idol style dancing, like, are they going to bring in other performers into their live performances, or, are they going to change drastically from here on out? Whether it be live performance wise or music wise or visuals or something.
I think you're going to see that with a lot of the biggest bands in the scene, or the most experienced bands. I think the Gazette's going to get way more experimental. I think Durangray might get way more experimental. Durangray already got way more experimental.
Durangray's been experimental since they started.
Yeah.
No, but I mean like very uniquely exploring unexplored territory compared to most of the industry. Like Archaic was like, what? I've never heard anything like that.
When they're self-managed like that, or when they have enough clout on a label, it's a lot easier for them to do so. So, I mean, that's why you've seen such change with Alice 9, especially. And
you see it with all the PSC bands. So. What's up?
I hate to interrupt. I actually have to. Just wanted to, say goodnight and thank you for having me on.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Sorry guys. I'll be talking to you again very soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for coming on, Shane.
Of course. I'll
Thanks,
talk to you guys.
Shane. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See ya. Yeah,
Album of Silence. Nice. I'm just reading the chats.
But I mean, A9 is doing things that I haven't seen. I haven't seen this arrangement style before in a rock band.
I haven't seen it in visual kei, I'll tell you that.
I haven't seen a visual kei band work with a god tier level metal producer like the Gazette is doing for this album.
What, really?
Yeah, he's working with Lamb of God's producer.
But Jesus, that's insane.
Yeah, well, that's why their Falling sounds so dynamic and all over the place, but it's not a train wreck. I think it's because like they have a producer that can handle it, and Kai is low key a really dynamic drummer, and Udraha and Aoi, well, especially Udraha, is like low key a really versatile guitarist, and Ruki has behind the scenes just been like massively upgrading his voice. So I think they're going to be like addressing some mainstream trends even more strongly than they've done in the past. So and now A9. So that, and A9 is like the Gazette or Durangray of of like the lighter side of visual kei as far as I'm concerned. So they have the credentials, to do it if they want to. I mean, Camellia did like what the experimentation with pop music really well for a while, but they were like an indie band and they did struggle and stuff. A9, it's like, I mean, if it doesn't work out, then they know it didn't work out. It wouldn't necessarily destroy them as a band. Like Camellia's, it kind of destroyed them as a band, I feel like, you know, because that's all they had. Whereas A9 is like, well, we're really good at making light rock music and we can do that all day, every day. So let's try this. And then if that doesn't work, let's try this. And if that doesn't work, let's try this. So it's interesting to see a band this experienced not be afraid to fail, by the way.
Well, it is a like two-sided coin in that respect, because, you know, being self-managed, it is their money. So if they screw up, then goodbye money. And it can hurt them very seriously moving forward for the future. But yeah, they do have a lot more musical freedom. But that is also a risk too, where, you know, when you're on a label, you do have people, very experienced people, telling you and guiding you what to do with your music. But it can also turn into force, where you're forced to do a certain type of music that you don't necessarily want to be making.
Yeah. But I do think that, you know, since Visual Kei is a culture or a subculture, not a genre, I would actually be really interested in seeing more genres outside of rock. Like, even if they leave it behind, even if it's like, it's not like rock mixed with something like, I thought Wingworks was really interesting.
Yeah. I think Sleepyhead's getting in a bit of the more electronic side as well, but keeping a little bit of the Visual Kei roots.
Yeah. Oh God. But when he went full pop with that last music video, it was phenomenal. Like,
right. So it makes you wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's another one. That's, you know, that's the, you know, the leader of the former leader of the Osharike scene, right? That's you know, Takeru and Sug.
Yeah. So that makes me really wonder, because I know Teddy Lloyd is working on Sleepyhead projects. I think that's been mentioned somewhere publicly as well. And Teddy did used to work at PS Company. He's credited for a number of Gazette tracks as well. So it wouldn't be out of the question that he worked on a lot of different PS Company artists back in that time period. So that makes me wonder about if is like actual electronic music producers working on a track like and an album like Planet Nine as well.
Sorry, can you say that the last part of that?
Oh, I said, like, it makes me curious if like Alice Nine did hire an electronic music producer to work on this last album and give it that like really distinct flavor, I guess.
Yeah, because it I don't know. It's at this point I've seen so much, or I've witnessed so much. Like, I honestly don't know if Sho just like busted his ass like the last few months and just, you know, upgraded his production style. Like, maybe there's like a 10-20% chance that happened. I don't, you know, or they hired someone, because it sounds the same, but it doesn't sound the same. Like those lighter songs that I talked about that are, you know, just like the in-between tracks, the non-promotional tracks, they sound like they're produced in the exact same way as like the tracks on Ideal. And for Ideal, I really feel like that was entirely self-produced.
Curious.
It's very curious. This is a very baffling album.
I'll have to do some digging.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, it really wouldn't it really wouldn't shock me at this point. Like, I never thought like Rookie from the Gazette would go from growl rapping to metal screaming the way he has. You know, I never thought Sug, when they were Genki Osharike, would turn into the street gothic, you know, band and pull it off really well. I never thought Takeru would do pop and I'd like it so much. You know, it's like, I don't know. You never know what these guys are capable of. So,
yeah. There is like, I think there's also some kind of desperation in the scene right now in Japan. This is something I hear a lot from the industry side, but like a lot of the artists are frustrated with the scene or feel like it's getting really stagnant. There hasn't been any like big break artist in the last decade like there has been, you know, in the early 2000s, what there was for Visual Kei. So I think that might be causing some of these artists to be like, hey, let's try some new stuff.
Yeah, I think, well, and the other thing is, I think that's something a lot of people who used to be into Visual Kei, or have like kind of fallen, like lost interest in it. I've wanted to see for a while. There's a lot of, I know Shola Aurora, when he came on stream. For those of you who don't know, Shola Aurora is a New York-based v-kei inspired indie artist, and he was talking about how there was a very concerning level of copycat thinking going on just the last few years specifically. A lot of trends, a lot of like being extended, but I'm starting to see that go away. But what it's being replaced with is like wild ass experimentation, like more so than I remember in past years. So
I love it though. I'm excited for this ride. I'm heading to Japan this month again for work, and I might be able to catch Alice 9 at a show, and some of my other friends are performing. So I'm really excited to take a look at it, because I did see them perform a while back, and I wasn't too impressed, but it was before this stuff came out. So
yeah, that's the other thing, is I'm skeptical as to how well this will sound live. I'm being completely honest. It does sound less of like a backing track fest than like the last album, which kind of made you suspect it a little bit, but because it's less like that, that raises more questions, because the level at which things are integrated in here kind of feels like you almost need a DJ, or like I don't even know. Didn't Sug actually outright use, like, one of their guitarists would switch over to like a small DJ rig for certain songs?
Yeah, and a lot of bands also have a manipulator operating with them. They won't be on the stage, they'll be off to the side, but a lot of these artists do have a manipulator for those more electronic elements as well.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
Yeah, but that's my point earlier, is that they might be incorporating electronic, guest performers or somebody else to make the performance more dynamic in the future. Like, we don't know.
Yeah. Bryn says there's so many great bands, but you have to sort through all of the meh bands, but this was always the case. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I will definitely say that it's gotten more worth it over time. Like, what I'm finding now is like, it's more and more, I'm like, I never thought I would expect to have seen this. I never would have seen this coming, like, Oshari bands going heavy. Like, I didn't expect that. I might've made a joke about it, but I wouldn't have seriously expected it, before. I guess before, well, I mean, there was like maybe a 1% suspicion ever since Sug put out that Sweet Toxic single before they left PSC, because it had Fat Inside Horror on it, which was like the other A-side PV track, and it was like they had a little gothic look and a little pseudo metalcore kind of thing going on, but it didn't seem like anything serious, and then indie, not like soupy or anything. They kind of got it out of their system the first few singles, maybe first album, and they went back to they were just like a cool, just like a cool Oshari band, still pretty light, but now you got Acme, and you've got Rave with this mini album. God damn. Like, really? I don't. Yeah. Well, so I had sent you the PV, right, in our group chat, where it's like they're straight up doing like metalcore, but it's really good, low key. Like, it's really good. There's another track that they've actually uploaded. I didn't see it because I thought it was just an announcement track, because it's just like the album cover and then like or the artist cover even. I don't even know if it's the album. It's not the album cover. And then some information about the release. I thought it was just like a general promo, but it was actually just a full track of one of the non-PV tracks from the mini album. And they put it out like a month or two prior to the PV dropping. And that one literally sounds like Genki Osharike, like the sparkly kind of Osharike that like Vivarush mixed with like the heavier stuff. And it's really weird. So I'll have to show you that after this. But
I'm peeping it now. Is it the one? Which one?
Let me see if I can.
Tsumito Hatsu. I can't read. Wow. Interesting. I wasn't interested in this band a few years ago. I think I saw too many terrible live performances when they were really new.
Yeah, we were plugging them for a while, just because we had seen how I had seen how well they did as an indie band with like their first release that they put out, and then PSC snatched them up so fast.
Yeah, they snatched them up real fast.
Yeah, and then the fact that they were able to like keep it together, and in spite of the fact that you could very clearly tell PSC was like running them through like a boot camp of some sorts, because they were trying all these different styles that were compatible with their core kind of like funky ravey Oshare-ish sound, but it was like one would be like a super poppy happy like Festbanquer levels of like light happy songs, and then there would be another one that was like a post-hardcore song and he's screaming on it. Like that was the last one that they did before they left PSC, and then like everything in between, soft ballads, melancholy, stuff, a little bit of Angora.
Wait, back up. So Rave left PS Company?
Yeah, they're indie. This is their first release as an indie band.
Oh my god. When did this happen?
Yes. Oh, you didn't know about this?
I don't know if I knew and I forgot, or I just didn't know. Oh my god.
Yeah, they left.
Oh my goodness. That's why. Okay, so when I saw them, they were signed to PS Company. Oh man.
Yeah.
so like some of the comments in the chat have been saying like a lot of breakthrough bands have somebody mentioned breakthrough bands like Grieva have didn't stay long enough. I'm talking about a different level of breakthrough. When I say breakthrough artists, like back when Alice 9 was big and stuff, they still weren't as big as the true breakthrough artists like Lunacy and Pierrot, artists who were selling out arenas in a matter of minutes in the days before the interwebs. So I don't think there has been artists of that caliber in the last decade or so. Alice 9 was one of the few remaining artists back when they were assigned to PS Company like that. And I think PS Company as a label has been struggling to retain that sort of like value on their artists, and that's probably why Rave went through so much like boot camp like level changes and everything. It's been really hard for that label to hang on to really good artists and kind of like produce them in the way that they did Alice 9 and Cassette and stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, we didn't even talk about Doubt, because Doubt is like doing their own version of what A9's doing,
but Doubt is still like,
wild and crazy.
They're not ranking. They're not like, I don't see any huge news about these artists and stuff.
Doubt's ranking a little bit. It's not as
they haven't played Budokan recently.
No, but it's very much in line with what happened with, I would say, with Sug, what happened with A9 as well, which is that there's just a drop in terms of, from when they were on the major label to when they became an indie band. And you could probably say it's a mix of They don't have the backing power of like the distribution and, you know, promo money that, you know, they did on the major label. And they're also, because they all started experimenting, you know, differently. They probably lost a lot of their fair weather fans. So it looks like there's like a recovery time. And so it's just like the bands that do this seem to be like willing to take the hit and just struggle through it, you know, because they were major bands. So it's like, you know, there's a pretty good chance they have some cash stashed away, or they're talented, or you know, have enough skills to be able to have picked up enough skills to be able to do this on their own.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
make it work as best as you can, you know. So Brent says Doubt completely fell off my radar. Yeah.
See what I mean?
They had a good song called Manji that was like it was like a quirkier version of Doubt, like PSC era Doubt. I really don't want Doubt to see, I don't know. It's weird because some of these bands like Doubt, I was perfectly happy with like Doubt on PSC up until the last album that they had, I guess. But like the most mainstream pop rocky, jazzy, catchy versions of Doubt that I've ever heard were also like my favorite types of music from them. So I don't know how that's going to work out in terms of the fact that, you know, they happen to be a band that the best kind of music they made also happened to be like the most mainstream compatible music. And now they're doing like a full heel turn and doing like more disorganized song structures and, you know, and stuff like that. Whereas A9 was a little more, as Alice 9, it was more nuanced, you know, they could do hard rock-ish stuff, you know. It's not like Senko did really well back in the day when it came out. And it's not, you know, it's not like that was a light rock song exclusively. It had some blazing guitar solos, you know.
I miss those days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't know. Would you want him to keep making the same stuff?
No,
that's a genuine question, by the way, because there are some bands that I personally don't mind if they make the same thing over and over.
It's tough. I don't know. I think there was an era for that, and I think it's time that like the next band tries to do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And then I don't know. It's like heart-wrenching to decide.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about like what we were kind of hinting at with A9 is that usually when we could actually look at A9, we could look at Durn Gray, and we could look at the Gazette, right? So usually what we've seen with a lot of Visual Kei bands when they disband is it's like they went through all kinds of cool experimentation, and then it seemed like they ran out of gas, you know? Like there just wasn't anything else to try. They couldn't like find something that fit their identity and still worked. You know, but most of those bands, even if they were really big bands like Mejibre, they were still indie bands, you know, and you know, a lot of them, you know, compared to these more major bands that have been around for 20 plus, you know, 10, 15, 20 years, you know, they're not quite as experienced musicians. So like you have A9, which is a quote unquote indie band, with the reality been around forever, you know. They have a fan base, so they can afford to like, you know, try a bunch of stuff, and maybe it doesn't work for a substantial amount of their audience, and then they try something else, and then they try something else. So it's like an extra level of protection that they've got to experiment in ways that we usually don't get to see, you know. And like the Gazette is kind of doing their own version of that, where it's like, I'm used to, at least myself personally, I'm used to the Gazette not going back to a style that they've tried. and things like that, this upcoming album, it seems like it's going back to multiple styles they've tried and building it. It's not so obvious what the theme is, you know, like there's a lot of familiar things, but then there's a lot of like unfamiliar parts about it, you know. So they're kind of in a position where where they're trying something new, working with the Western producer, and you know, getting experimental but staying familiar, kind of deviating from like what they usually have, which is like a very ambitious and very planned out series of experimentations where it's like R&B, you know, alternative rock, pop music, EDM, you know, and then like all the metal was like the last one. And now they're trying something that's just like, it's not so obvious what it is. Right. Mm-hmm. And now you also have Duran Gray, who just went out to freaking musical equivalent of outer space with Arche. Like, so they've already shown that, you know, they've already successfully gone out somewhere further than any other band had gone. And now they're coming back from that. And you see, you know, maybe you see them struggling a little bit with like figuring out where they go from there. Because like, I know there's been a lot of mixed reactions at VKH about this most recent single that came out. But it's not like they're going to turn around and just disband, because it's like, well, that didn't work out for a lot of people. You know, it's like they don't have a problem powering through experimental trailblazing, you know, like what they're doing. But
yeah. Oh man, the chat. This is.
Are they attacking?
Well,
I just saw something.
Bryn just delivered a very heavy blow to my heart, but I'll go back to the other comment. Question about what happens when bands disband. Do the band members look for normal jobs? Do they take a break, work a side job, blah, blah, blah? What is okay, so if you really want me to answer this question, I mean, in the end, punk don't pay the bills. So if your punk isn't paying the bills, you got to have a job. So, or you live with your parents, you know, that kind of thing. A lot of these artists, one thing I found is a lot of artists, when they quit the industry, when they quit doing music, they're still part of the industry for the most part. A lot of them will get jobs as management. A lot of them will get jobs like doing other stuff. But of course, there are the people who are like, screw this, I'm you know, too crushed to continue my career in the music industry, and they'll go work in a completely different field. So yeah.
I really think like following up on that, and I know it's super like not normalized in Japan yet, but I think the sooner we can introduce the idea of Patreon is a thing and you can fully support yourself that way, the better, because the simplicity with which you know, like just a content creator in general can like just come up with a few $1,000s a month, you know, just, you know, after, you know, a couple years of making content and people, you know, starting to support them, is just like a really good sign for you know, a scene like v-kei that, you know, has fans all over the world in small pockets that would love to support the band members, you know. And I mean, there are people that wouldn't mind throwing money at them, you know, in exchange for, you know, like a thank you or a you know, like a being put on a website, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I really hope, I think speaking of like A9, like they were like the first band I'd seen, v-kei band I'd seen to use Kickstarter. That's how they started A9.
Yeah. There's a lot of crowdfunding efforts, I want to say. It's kind of like crowdfunding, but the Nico programs that a lot of these artists do in Japan, where you subscribe to watch exclusive content. That's a great way to support the artists. I mean, if you don't speak Japanese, then maybe it's not much use to you, but that is a direct like influence you can have, is subscribing to their channels and watching their content on stuff like that. You know, Japan isn't quite the same as here where they're going to start up Patreons or whatever, but right now Nico Nico is like a huge influence for them.
Yeah, because I mean, it really is like Patreon, unless you're like someone like Philip DeFranco who takes huge pains to make it feel like a transaction and not like e-begging. It's going to give off that vibe a little bit. And I know that doesn't jive with, I don't know, Japanese business culture, you know, that was kind of the general point that Lori made to me when I brought it up with her.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah. But
I support my favorite artist by bringing them snacks.
Aw.
What? Oh, yeah. No.
That's nice of you.
Well, yeah, I mean, on my end at least, I visit a lot of bands. I see a lot of shows when I go to Tokyo for work. And, you know, if I do see comments from overseas fans or anything like that, I do try to pass on the response for the releases directly. Like, hey, just to let you know, your stuff's like really vibing in America. It might not be the case in the US or in Japan, but, you know, over there it's doing really well. And, you know, those kinds of things work really well. That's why I keep pushing people, like, do comment stuff on social media. It does help out the artists a lot.
Yeah. Emmy says, I'm a broke college student. I wish I had money. I'm just looking for jobs as well, like crazy. I have nothing, zero zilch, nothing, VK, anything at my house. I wish I could support them somehow. I love them. You totally can. If you can't afford stuff, it doesn't make you any worse of a fan or anything like that. If you share their content, you show them to new people, you share their official content, and you get the word out about them. That's just as good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like tweet at them, see like, hey man, I love this release. Like they might not be able to respond, but they do have Google Translate, and you know any like positive encouragement, like it means a lot to artists, I think.
Yeah, I mean the main point I could make is that I can't tell you how many like websites or corporations with products are out there that have tons of money in terms of backing, but like zero spread because nobody's interested and nobody shares it. And then I also can't tell you just how many, websites or creators or artists are out there that's just like one guy with like a small amount of income, but his stuff goes everywhere and he has enough to like pay the bills and stuff. Like, so I would say sharing is like, it's just because it's money doesn't mean it's great, like it doesn't mean that's the only way,
Yes.
There is a huge value in terms of helping to, spread things around, spread content around.
Show your love. Showing your love is free.
Yes, for sure. Showing your love is free. Okay, so before I forget, and I think I wanted to get you to a nameless Goulet, who for our LMC stream, I believe he watched it after we got off, and he donated. He tipped us $20 on Streamlabs. So thank you very much. He said thank you for all your hard work. So I just wanted to go ahead and read that off since I finally got the window loading on my tin can internet connection. So I could read it. But yeah, thank you so much, Nameless Gula. And just a reminder, guys, if you feel the spirit move within you, or you just want to really guarantee that I read something in your chat on here, if you click the link in the Streamlabs, you can tip us and help us run the website, since we are volunteer run. And the message you put in there, I will read online. I will read live. I will read online. And I also should probably make an announcement, since this was the first time that this had happened, or maybe the second time. If you, the link is active afterwards as well. after the streams as well. So if you donate in the off hours, I will read it on the next stream. So that's when you can expect to see it. And if there's ever a situation where I end up just getting a ton off of hours, like off of streaming hours, then I would, do a custom stream just to read those off. So
that sounds fun.
But yeah, thanks guys for your support. We really appreciate it. We're sort of slowly integrating this Streamlabs stuff into our live formats. Once I get internet, we'll be in like a really cool professional kind of format again, like we've done in the past. And
yeah, congrats on the new place. That sounds exciting.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in Miami now, so
yeah. I have some like industry stuff, like news you guys can look out for soon. If you want a little bonus for today's stream.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So if any of you guys are coming out to Anime Expo this year, we are bringing a little taste of VKH into the fashion show. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up to keep your eyes out the next couple of weeks. Hopefully this week we'll have the announcements out. I'm really, really excited for this one. So if you guys are con goers,
it's gonna be good, guys.
It's gonna be real good. So
I have a feeling. I don't know. Something tells me it's gonna be really good.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out. There's eye emojis in the chat. Keep those eye emojis out.
Yeah. It's fashion show stuff, but VKH and fashion are very like closely tied, especially with the Harajuku fashion scene. So it's gonna be great. I'm really excited for this.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Okay, so I guess looking ahead, like what would you like to see? We can go ahead and wrap up in a bit, but I guess a good way to get us towards that would be like moving ahead. What would you expect to see or like to see from A9? Whether that's a single or an album or a change or how they do their lives or anything.
I think any change is good because I think things have gotten quite stagnant or just like they were on some rocky ground, at least for me, because I wasn't even following them the last few years. I was like, So I'm really interested to see where this goes and hearing about them doing some kind of like idol performance type thing during their set. I think that's really cool. I think it's different and engaging for the audience. So I'm excited to see them live later this month, hopefully. I think I don't know. I think it's just like the next level of Alice 9 coming.
Yeah, and it definitely seems like a work in progress kind of thing from certain angles. But you can kind of tell, like when I was seeing that, I'll have to find the live clip for you if you have for them like doing the dancing, like the idol thing. It's like it's just you look at it and my response was this would be so cringy if it wasn't for the fact that they looked like they were having so much damn fun with it,
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's like really hard to fault a band who is talented anyway for just like screwing like fucking around like that and having fun and then if they happen to get really good at it, which they kind of did, because they pulled off this Castle of the Nine song it's pretty solid, for a full-blown pop song from a rock band. Then great, if they're able to pull it off. But
they've already had that silly element though. Like they've been a pretty silly band. That's why I used to follow them quite closely. Is they always were silly, but it didn't really come across in the performances so much in that way. It was more like a behind the scenes type thing. But I think it's great that they're incorporating it in the live performances more.
Right. Yeah, well, I remember my I think my favorite silliness that I've seen from them was just how they acted in general in the PV for Yami ni Chihiro Sakura back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Oh,
that
yes.
shit was so wonderful. Like
classic.
India Indie Alice 9. So I kind of like to see. I like how new Indie Alice 9 also kind of doesn't give a fuck in certain ways. So
yeah, this is great.
Yeah. Emmy says, "OMG, you're in Japan, right? How did you get to live in Japan, Winona? Right? Sorry, I don't know your name. No, this is Rhubarb. Winona is normally here, but Rhubarb is here.
This is the one time we don't do like cameras, so sorry.
Yeah. Normally we're on camera, and you know, if I've had enough time and had no technical difficulties, you know, I've got like a whole background and presentation and everything. So if you look like a few weeks back, that's kind of how they're going to be looking moving forward.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I live in Los Angeles. I go to Tokyo for work. My company, Fake Star, we bring out artists from Japan and stuff. So that's why I go out there pretty often.
Yeah, she was asking because she always wanted to go to Japan. I'm guessing live in Japan or just like very easily get to Japan.
You know? LA is pretty close.
Yeah, I think LA is your best bet. Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. Get to eat a lot of food. Go to a lot of concerts for work. It's nice. What are we talking about?
Sorry. Jesus, a nameless Gula just donated $40. Thank you, dude.
Whoa!
Wow.
That's me clapping.
Thank you so much. That's really awesome, dude. He says, any chance we can get some coverage on maybe Grimoire or Dataroma? Will you also take more LMC based shenaniganery? Definitely. I have I'm backed up on reviews right now. I have a bunch of reviews that are coming out for significant releases that came out throughout the spring. So one of them is Dataroma's last mini album because it's very notable in my opinion.
I'm excited for the new LMC album.
Yes, and then we will be. I'm not sure if I'll review it. I think I want to get James to review it since he kind of did review the Veda. Well, he didn't review it. He had it in his list of top 30 v-kei albums of that year.
So good.
Yeah. It was actually a really good sign that it made that list because it's not exactly like it's it's not like a ranked list or like accounting for all v-kei bands. It's like all the ones that aren't like super big and commercial, so like no Gazette, no Duran Gray, like that kind of stuff. And then it's like there's also a priority given to like albums you might have missed. So I think a lot of people they didn't miss the fact that LMC put out an album, but they missed the fact that you might actually like this album even if you didn't like old LMC stuff. So like, but anyway, we'll probably be doing a review for that, and then we'll also be doing a live stream like in a few months. I think we'll do live streams kind of based around like the album release because LMC is a big band, so maybe try and do a listening party, which will be interesting because we won't be playing the music obviously over the stream, but it may just be me and whoever, and Winona and whoever else just live reacting in time with the chat. Still thinking about it, but and then we also want to do like a recap of like the State of the Union of Osharike at some point later on in the year.
State of the Union.
The Osharike State of the Union, because you've got LMC I'm guarantee you they're going to do some wild, crazy, unique stuff. You've got Rave doing some crazy, unique stuff. You got Acme doing some unique stuff.
Exciting.
I feel like I'm missing someone, and then what else was there? Grimoire. I think we talked about Grimoire on the upcoming podcast episode we're putting out. There's a podcast episode we recorded a few months ago and we're unable to release. So, but we thought the episode was entertaining enough that now that I'm able to edit and release it, we might as well, we're still going to put it out, even though the news is a little outdated and stuff. So maybe people can just leave in the comments and their opinion on how right we were. But I think we talked about Grimoire there, and we're definitely pretty interested in Grimoire in general, because they've gotten more interesting since then. So I can look into how to, incorporate them into a stream for sure in the future. Have you listened to Grimoire at all, Rhubarb?
Not recently. They've been off my radar for the most part. Are they good?
So my opinion on them is like changed pretty drastically. I'd say in general, they're not quite my style, but like the sound, but I think the theme is like really interesting. And then at the same time, I also think they're improving pretty significantly. The theme is oh shoot, hold on one second. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the theme is that the vocalist is a child who's like either sleeping and dreaming or about to go to sleep. And then all of the other band members are like his nightmares that he dreams up, or his dreams that he dreams up. So it's a really interesting concept, and you can kind of see them play with it visually. I would say in the beginning, it was just a little too much of a, like, for me, it was too much of a incongruency that like the music was pretty heavy, but then his voice was like really light. And
yeah, I see what you mean.
But over time, they've like changed and kind of experimented more with their style and kind of flirted back and forth with like lighter and harder stuff at the same time. It's like really, really cool. Or it's really, I mean, it looks really cool, and then it started to sound pretty cool. And
here's my question: does he perform blindfolded?
I don't know.
No, that's not. Sorry, that's like not an important thing to worry about, but yeah, they sound cool.
Yeah, I know Laura from J Rock Vault, she had shared like the sampler for their mini album that they put out, and then she had said one of the tracks on there was really solid, even though, and I listened to it, I was like, wow, this is actually really good. This is not lining up with like they were progressing, but then it was like this one was like fantastic. So
nice.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. And then Dataroma, I can give a small spoiler, is just like they are. Okay, hold on one second. Sorry, my AirPods are like dying.
No.
I'm gonna try and give me 1 second. I'm gonna try and see if this ends up like picking up echoes and stuff. So here we go.
Okay. I'm like peeping Datarama's like music videos and website right now. They got some nice venues on their schedule.
Am I echoing at all, or when you speak, are you echoing at all?
No.
Okay. Chat, let me know if I echo. I'm earbudless right now, but yeah. So Dataroma, Brent says not loving the new Dataroma release. To be honest, I'm super down with it. This is live. I think they came back with a vengeance. I think they were experimenting a lot and sort of kind of was diluting their music a bit, and then they took it back to like the old school Dataroma, but gave it like a new school production upgrade. And they borrow a lot from bands like the Gazette, but like how they always have, but they do it in a unique enough way that it's just really fun. What's ironic is that the Kinky, which is their PV track that they have up on YouTube and everything, so that's the one that they're giving people the impression of the album. It's the least. It's the worst song on the album technically. Like every single song on that mini album, other than that one, is better than the Kinky. Like So if you hate the Kinky, I would still say go listen to it on iTunes or Apple Music or Spotify, because it's like there's like hard music in there. The last song they put out, or the last song on the mini album, is called Kids War, and that has kind of been their fan favorite banger track that was just went unreleased since I've seen live footage of them playing it since like around the time of their first single coming out. So they finally put that out, and it's a banger. It's like their version of like the Gazette has like Canto Dogeza is like their burn the house down old school indie track. And so they've got this, and it's like, it's just, you can just tell it's like it's the one you use to like let the crowd get all their energy out before you close out the show. Yeah, I could go on and on about the Dataroma, to be honest, so I won't do it too much, but it's good shit. But yeah. But thank you so much, Nameless Gula. That was a very generous donation. We will still read the chat occasionally, guys, as well. So don't feel the need to pay to play or anything like that. This is just if anybody feels like it. We've had people express interest in supporting us when they find out that we're volunteer run. So this is what we're doing for now until we have a more strategic plan in place. But,
I want to listen to these bands now, though. I'm like, I got a bunch of music to catch up on now.
Yeah, it's really easy to fall behind. They really sneak up on you. But yeah, so I think we'll go ahead and end it there. But Rubab, thank you very much for coming on. And where can people follow you? I've linked to the Fake Star Facebook page, and then also anything you want to plug.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I do have a personal Twitter if you want to harass me there. I'll put that in here on the chat. And then, yeah, our company channel is Fake Star USA. Japan Fake Star doesn't speak English, so you should probably bother us if you want anything. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really fun. I'm excited to get back into A9 after having like ignored them for so many years.
It was a pleasant surprise. It made the moving experience like significantly better. So I discovered it perfectly. But awesome. Also, let's see, what should I? What I was gonna small quick announcement I was gonna make is I was just gonna plug my Twitter and Winona's Twitter, since today or yesterday we really weren't able to have like a ton of time to use VKH official accounts to get news out. So if you follow me at The Only Real Jeff on Twitter, or if you follow Winona at The Real Winona on Twitter, we will post updates about streams and surprise editions of VKH Live and status updates, since we now do have a small group of people that are really interested in making sure they make the live streams and things like that. So also Fake Star and J-Rock Vault run a group that VKH also admins in on Facebook called Visual K and J-Rock Party. And so that link is in the description. You should definitely check that out. And small teaser, VKH will have a companion thing. I won't say what it is, like coming soon. Yeah, I've been working on things.
Oh man.
I've been
so exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, okay, with that, I'm going to finish unpacking because this place it's a mess right now. But thanks for showing up, guys. And we will talk to you guys later.
All right, thanks, guys.